So we're always going to get here eventually, my friends, and I do believe the day is upon us. AEW is going to have to make a WrestleMania choice. This comes off the back of last night's episode of AEW Dynamite, which I thought was a very good follow-up to Double or Nothing, especially that opening segment. When Hangman Adam Page comes out, it's like, oh man, it's not about winning or losing, it's about what you do in the middle of it all. Essentially being Batman when Swerve comes out. Swerve is the best. He's like, yeah, I don't trust you, basically because you tried to kill me. And he even had receipts when he showed the footage from the Young Bucks saying, we love Hangman Adam Page. Sangman? We love Hangman Adam Page, and we will make sure he becomes the world champion. When out came Will Ospreay playing the dad, say, listen, we all need to calm down. The Death Riders are the plan here, or the play here. And of course, this is what they want us to do. And Swerve was like, I'm never going to work with Hangman. And Hangman was like, I'm never going to work with Swerve. Of course they're going to get together. But, and I'm not saying that AEW is copying WWE. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are themes in pro wrestling, meaning you're always going to get some crossing of the streams at some point. The Ghostbusters were wrong in that sense. And I also want to make it clear before I get into it, it's a positive thing. It's fun. It's what wrestling should do. But much like at WrestleMania 39, when Cody Rhodes was marching to finish his story and take the belt off Roman Reigns, who had held it at that point for, 1,316 days minus 365, he had Kevin Owens and he had Sami Zayn and he had other friends, and they weren't able to do it. Now, we can look back in hindsight and say it was the right thing because WrestleMania 40 was awesome. But now, Hangman is going to have Swerve in his corner, I would assume, and he's also going to have Will Ospreay. But the Death Riders have the Death Riders, and they're the Bloodline. So it really is going to be fascinating. And I can't wait. I'm so pumped about this. I think it's awesome there is this comparison that we can make because it's a choice that Tony Khan is going to have to decide. Does he keep the belt on Jon Moxley and potentially piss off a lot of people in that Texas stadium because he has another plan down the line? Or does he just decide, you know what, I want everyone to have smiles on their faces and Hangman Adam Page becomes the champion? Now, there is a big portion of me that believes that is what will happen because you go back to the last year's All In, which was awesome, and Bryan Danielson won that championship because he knew that his career was coming to an end, or at least this part of his career, and Tony Khan wanted to make sure he had his moment in Wembley Stadium. That's what he did. The year before that, it was Adam Cole and MJF, and they had their moment too. So, the past would dictate that within AEW, when we get to their version of WrestleMania in a big old stadium, it will be the babyface walking away with the title, and it's certainly time as far as I'm concerned. The Death Riders have become more interesting because now you do have Swerve, Hangman, and Ospreay acting as their detractors or their competition, but it'd just be fun to go in a different direction for a while as I stumble over my words. And Hangman Adam Page is the guy. He's always been the guy. If you're looking for an OG AEW dude to lead the company, well, it's not Swerve because he does have sort of affiliations with NXT and WWE a little bit. Will Ospreay's obviously been around the houses. And while Hangman Adam Page, of course, had a career before AEW, he was through the door when they debuted at Double or Nothing, whatever the flub it was. So a lot of people's affiliation with AEW is going to be through Hangman and vice versa. So that's what I would do. But I also want to make out there's no right or wrong here. Execution is everything in pro wrestling because there is an outlier, right? If all of a sudden you don't want to take the belt off Moxley because you have an idea, you have plans for later down the line, maybe you want to do something at Forbidden Door, I do not know, or a Full Gear, etc., etc. MJF, very interestingly, is talking about that world championship a lot. He has cozied up to the Hurt Syndicate because he believes, A, I can help you defend and protect those tag team titles, but I also think you can help me win the world title. Now, a big caveat here, or a big asterisk, whichever word we want to use, is why would somebody like Bobby Lashley especially be cool with Maxwell Jacob Freeman going after a world championship? I would even say at some point Shelton Benjamin should be in that picture as well. Now, you can make the point, well, maybe, Simon, if MJF wins it, what better way to get a match than being in the same group as him? And I get it, and that probably could be that way, but in order to get the belt on MJF, I got that the wrong way round, but in order to get the title within the Hurt Syndicate, through this storyline that we have just pitched, it has to go to MJF. So, could there be a scenario where you have Swerve trying to help Hangman, you help Ospreay trying to help Hangman, and you have the Death Riders doing their thing, trying to cause murder, as the name suggests, when all of a sudden the Hurt Syndicate sneak into this as well? They are the people that stop Hangman Adam Page, and then it is MJF that somehow uses that to get the belt. I don't know. And again, you can throw that out there and be like, well, why doesn't it make any sense? Why would they want to get involved here? Why would MJF want to take on Jon Moxley? But we have seen stranger stuff in pro wrestling, and I suppose you could even argue the other way. This just popped into my brain. Maybe the Hurt Syndicate could even help Hangman Adam Page, and MJF then says, I get the first shot, and the Hurt Syndicate help him. I do not know, but I do not think that, given that All In is, 45 days away, whatever the flub it is, and that Maxwell Jacob Freeman for a long old time has been talking about his Triple B, and the fact he's now inserted himself into this group in order to get back to it, I do not think these things are random. And I think even if it is after All In, they are going to become one and the same eventually. But when I was just thinking about things you could do at All In, I was like, I wonder if that's why he joined the Hurt Syndicate, because it's going to tie into a big old schmoz, much like a WrestleMania 42 at All In number 3. I do not know, but I think the fact there are these things that we can talk about, and some of what I said is super dumb, of course, but I can't help what pops up there in my mind. But I was still hazarding a guess based on what I saw last night during that awesome opening segment. I think Hangman Adam Page probably will win. I think Swerve will be there. I think Ospreay will be there. They will fight off Claudia and Wheeler Yuta and Pac if he's back, or Gabe Kidd, whoever it may be. And we'll go on from there. Don't forget Forbidden Door is right after that. So you could do Ospreay versus Hangman Part 2. You could even, sort of, if you wanted to be daring, have Ospreay win the belt there. I don't think that would be a problem. This is what we talked about after Roman Reigns lost his championship. When people have held the belt for that long consistently, you need to do a fast title change. Well, I think you do, in order to keep the fans on their feet. Like, oh my gosh, we never know what's going to happen. It just sort of, again, it just makes you guess and it makes you curious. And it means you can do title matches and you're never 100% sure which way it's going to go. But I think something big is coming at All In. And it could, like I say, it could just be the coronation of Hangman Adam Page after all of this stuff. But then it also could be the biggest schmoz of all time, which isn't necessarily the bad thing. I put you back to WrestleMania 39 going into WrestleMania 40. I mean, if Tony Khan knows what he wants to do it All In for, is that right? I think so, which I presume will be back at Wembley Stadium. Maybe that's what you do here. Maybe you have the belt on John Moxley for another year. That would be bad. I certainly wouldn't do that. But then again, I haven't seen it played out on TV, so maybe they surprised me. The point is this. I think either sadness or happiness is coming, so I would prepare yourself. And of course, at the end of the night, we had the first confrontation between Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné. And if they get this right too, you could argue this should be the main event. I think it will be Hangman versus John Moxley. But Toni Storm has held that belt for not as long as he has, but for a good old while. And she has turned herself into one of the big superstars in AEW, if not the number one superstar. Always gets crazy reaction, is treated like a big deal, which is half the battle. And Mercedes Moné, I think, is the best women's wrestler in the world. Or she's at least top 5, as far as I'm concerned. I hate saying stuff like that because I'm not overly familiar with the Stardom women, so maybe they're all better. Top 5 from the people that I see week in, week out, which by comparison is the Thief of Joy, and we shouldn't do it. She's brilliant. That's what I'm trying to get across here. And of course, Toni Storm is the quintessential babyface. Mercedes Moné is no longer even trying to pretend that she's anything but a heel. So that's awesome. And here this was it was good stuff, but it was standard stuff. So I remember you from 10 years ago and you've changed. Well, I remember you and I need to win that championship. And Toni Storm's like, I need this championship. And you may be the best of all time, but I'm timeless. It's really, really cool stuff. And then they made some sexual innuendo about tunnels and hips and Tony trains and Monet, whatever. And then they danced after they tried to beat each other up but failed. That was a little bit strange, but it was well done. And I think if you're into these two characters, you're going to be super pumped about this match, especially because it's a dream match. I don't know if they ever fought in WWE. Maybe they did. Did their paths even cross? I don't know. But in 2025, I think they have to be considered two of the best all-round wrestlers that are going right now. So once again, to be able to do that at your version of WrestleMania, that is just good stuff. I don't know whether the TBS title's on the line. This is the only thing. I think it needs to be on the line, or I think somehow Mercedes needs to lose it. But then you're kind of telegraphing what could happen. The point is, Mercedes can lose here, and she still has a championship. And then I think you lose a little bit of the jeopardy. Whereas if you know it's do or die for both of them, I think you can invest more into this. Because my gut kind of thinks that I think it all depends on what you do in the men's championship match. If Hangman's winning, I do not mind Mercedes Moné winning as well, right? I think there is something to that. I think sometimes tragedy in wrestling can open up really interesting storylines. But what you don't want to do is have Mercedes win and have Moxie win, because then you're going to upset your fan base at an event they've come to have a good time. Or one would imagine. We've seen that happen before in other companies as well. So I do think there's synergy here, to use a word that is going to make you raise an eyebrow, as you should do. But I like the fact that we can talk about it like this. And of course, you can have Tony win and you can have Hangman win, because again, that's just meant to be warm and fuzziness in your tum-tum. But ultimately for these two, and I do think they touched upon it on their promo here, they want to go out there and have the best women's match ever. I don't think you need to put that much pressure on it. I think you can just go out there and have the best match possible that you can do. And even if somebody wants to sit down and go, well, I think this match is better, well, it doesn't matter, because that one was great anyway. I don't want to get on my high horse here, but I think we are living, not just in wrestling, in all of 2025 land. Everything has to be comparative straight away. So you see a promo and someone goes, it wasn't good as this promo, or someone has an apple and goes, it's not as good as this orange, so well, can I not just enjoy this lovely apple that I've just had? I think sometimes we get too carried away with that, and it's not great. I don't think it helps matters. But either way, I cannot see any kind of scenario where they don't smash it out the park. So given that you have these two matches basically holding up the entire pay-per-view, I think it's going to be awesome, and I think it's going to be something we can get excited about. And while it's a bit of a nerd topic, I'll be intrigued to see how this affects ticket sales. I think people get quite excited about this, and they'll go up even more so, because eventually we are going to announce Kenny Omega versus Okada, and there will be a fan base, even if it's a niche fan base, who will most definitely want to see that. Otherwise, though, I thought Dynamite was a good show. I would have sort of allowed more time for Adam Cole versus Carl Fletcher to breathe, but does it matter? No. This is an absolute lovely thing as well. There's a DQ here, and because you don't see disqualifications much on AEW, it was totally fine. And again, I'm not doing the comparing thing. I'm not saying, oh, the WWE is worse, because they do loads of DQs. I just meant on this evening, I was like, oh, that's nice. It's a random thing that happens here and there, so it sort of has more power. I think, given that we're 5 weeks away, 45 days, what's that? It's about 5 weeks. If we can try and hold off the proper match between Adam Cole and Kyle Fletcher, that to me has all the power that it needs. If you can set this up with the right kind of angles, the right kind of promos, I think you have people going crazy there. And I think Kyle Fletcher can probably win the TNT title, which it's kind of hard for me, because Adam Cole does not get the respect he deserves, right? He's so damn good, and people have forgotten just because he went through a bad time with injuries, which sucks. But at the same time, Kyle Fletcher is absolutely the heir apparent. He is going to be a massive star. He has gotten so good. That's why you should do these kind of matches. In a way, it is the old versus the new, although that's wear and fair on Adam Cole, because I think he's the present, for lack of a better term. So that's awesome. I even enjoyed the squash match. Were they called the Frat House? What a bunch of annoying dudes, which was the idea. And the Ops wiped the floor with them. That's just good pro wrestling to me. A bunch of guys came out, crossed the line, so the people that are meant to be badasses whipped their ass. I do want to make sure that Hook, I mean, he could have been on Collision, I don't know, but I do want to make sure that Hook is back on the television sooner rather than later, because I quite like the angle we did at Double or Nothing, but you don't want it to be out of sight, out of mind, and I think I'd throw him back into that as soon as I could do. The no DQ tag team match between, who the hell was it? Harley Cameron and Anna Jay taking on Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, that's right, was just exactly what it was meant to be, and they all worked so damn hard. There were some scary bumps in this too. Harley Cameron's face was an absolute mess. And some people have said this is the precursor for AEW introducing tag team titles, which would make sense, because you could do that AEW All In. That's the best way to introduce new belts. I can't stand it when people do it randomly, put them in the world off the back of a big show. There are too many championships in wrestling. I said this on Ups and Downs. Make sure you go check it out. Be on What Culture right now. Please subscribe to me and subscribe to them too. I freelance to do all the stupid reviews. But while there are too many titles, it's fine as long as those belts are used in a good way, as opposed to introducing them and then they're vanishing. It's one of the issues I have with the trios titles at the moment. I forgot they were on the Ops, because they should be embroiled in feuds all of the time. So as long as you think you have the depth of the roster, and as long as you have a plan and you've sat it out and mapped it all down, then I don't have a problem with it. And Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford seem like they work well together. I think Anna Jay and Harley Cameron, for where they are, is a really good idea. I just don't know who else would do it. I can see a world where Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander become a tag team, but I think they should be in the singles division. So I don't know. We'll wait and see, because WWE had that sort of great run with Liv Morgan and Raquel when those belts meant the world. So you can do it. You just need to have some consistency with it. So I don't mind that at all. And you had the mad match essentially between the Death Riders and then the Ultimate Babyface team, which was Willow, Mark Briscoe, and Mike Bailey. And I thought that worked quite well coming off the opening promo, because they had talked about how dangerous the Death Riders are, and the Death Riders essentially strangled all of them. So, oh yeah, you are pretty dangerous. And I can't remember her name now. Is it Thekla? Again, I said this on Ups and Downs, and I'm not aware of her. She's not in my sphere of influence when it comes to wrestling. I don't know if that's her name or not. The lady from Stardom, and she came out and knocked Jamie Hayter out. It's very funny, because the camera missed the first attack. So Jamie Hayter was just lying on the floor. Like, she was such a big fan, she just collapsed. I said this on Ups and Downs as well. I cannot give you an opinion on it at the moment, because she's brand new to me. And that's totally fine. AEW or WWE or any company shouldn't bring in wrestlers based on whether I know them or not. That would be bonkers. And the commentators told me she came from Stardom and she got fired because she punched the president in the face. I was like, oh yeah, that will happen. But in terms of me and the way that I view wrestling, I just need to see what's going to happen. Next week, I need to see the match. I bet the match is brilliant. There aren't very many bad wrestlers in Stardom, but you can't get massively excited about when you don't know the person. But I'd also like to think that people have brains and could understand that if you are a fan of said human being, you're going to be pumped. At least Jamie Hayter was on TV. That's something we talked about last week. Do not just forget about these people coming off the Vloss at a pay-per-view. And actually, the other thing I do want to talk about, I did my big rant over on What Culture 2, but I want to do it here as well. This is the more laid-back version where I kind of just let thoughts come into my head and I throw them out my mouth, which is dangerous in many ways. But there was a very scary powerbomb between between Adam Cole and Kyle Fletcher where I don't know what they were trying to do. Maybe that was the intent. This is the point I was trying to make. You do not know what they planned in the back, and you do know what the idea here was. They are super professionals, and the usual grifters were going, oh, it just goes to show AEW's a mud show. The wrestlers don't know what they're doing. It's so insulting. And it really, really annoys me because unless Adam Cole comes out and says something or Kyle Fletcher comes out and says something, you don't know what happened backstage. You don't know the conversation. I always like to be careful with this because, of course, you're allowed an opinion. You don't have to be a wrestler. You don't not have to be a wrestler. Whatever you think is completely worthy, for lack of a better term, doesn't mean I'm not going to get annoyed by it from time to time, but that should be the same vice versa. But until you've actually wrestled, it's really difficult to actually know what is going on here. And to act like you're surprised, I am just repeating myself now, but to act like you're surprised that wrestling can be dangerous and then use that as a way, as a negative on a wrestling promotion, that isn't a criticism. That's totally bonkers. You're trying to tell me you've watched wrestling for the last, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it may be. And it took two wrestlers in a company that, let's face it, you don't like, before you went, well, this is just dangerous professional wrestling. It's all dangerous. Mankind got thrown off the top of flipping Hell in a Cell. You think, now, that's fine. We can just do that. The man was basically destroyed inside and he carried on. We cannot get into that game. That game is utterly ridiculous. I'm literally saying the same things I said on What Culture. But a body slam can be dangerous if it goes wrong. If somebody gives you a body slam the wrong way, do you know where you're landing? On your head. So that's going to hurt you. Of course it is. I'm not comparing here. I want to make out that all wrestling is dangerous and I respect all of it. But what happened in that triple threat match on Raw? Chad Gable got dumped on his head. But you rarely see the same people go, and making noises. I just think that's a lack of respect for what wrestlers do and the risks that they go out there. And they put their lives on the line. They do. Some people think that's hyperbole, but it's not. We've seen people die in professional wrestling. So in no way should you be pointing any kind of finger of blame that I can't believe they did a dangerous thing. All wrestling is dangerous, and sometimes it goes wrong. That's one reason why people don't want to do wrestling. That totally makes sense. But we'll leave it there. That's me probably getting on my soapbox in a way that I shouldn't do. It just irked me more than it normally does. But a good episode of AEW Dynamite, and I think AEW, especially over the last 6 weeks, has really found its feet again. It feels nothing like WWE. It feels like its own product, and there's some really interesting stories, especially with the top guys on both sides of the fence, the men and the women, that are leading into what should be one of their biggest shows, and you can't ask for more than that. So I was sports entertained, I was a fan, I'm sure I forgot some stuff, but again, ups and downs will take you through everything beat by beat. I just think wrestling's in a great place right now. There are too many shows, but we can pick and choose, and I'd rather that than there not being enough shows, there not being enough competition. We have that. All-In Weekend's going to be mad, because NXT is now running head-to-head with AEW. I think it's a little bit unfair on the fans, because there are some people like me, massive geek, that want to watch both. I don't know. To me, I just shrug my shoulders. It's not professional wrestling, it's everything. It's sports, it's entertainment, it's movies. That's just the world of capitalism, I suppose. So I'm not going to get too bogged down with it. As long as AEW continues to prosper, and so does WWE as well, that's what's the best for the wrestlers, and it's what's best for the fans, and that's what's best for me for two different reasons. I'll leave it there. Don't know why I went off on that massive tangent, but I did. Let me know your comments below. I'm sure you disagree with me, which is awesome. Appreciate that. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is me talking about this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. Otherwise, it is grillermind.com/Simon. You can Simon get 10% over these fitness supplements. It ships worldwide, and they're always doing deals. Patreon.com/Simon316 to come sign up for the watch along. It's super duper cheap, and thank you to everyone that has joined. Really put a smile on my face. The poll for the second watch along just went up. Can I remember this? I think it's the main event of WrestleMania 30. As I wrote, it's Shawn Michaels trolling Hulk Hogan. It's Cody and Dustin versus Double or Nothing 2019, and also the first ever Money in the Bank. But I put a big other option in there too. Please do come give me your opinions. I'm happy to watch anything. Otherwise, Simon Miller on Cameo. Come and get a personalized video. Simon J. Miller on TikTok for all manner of things that I do. Pro Wrestling Tees and Big Cartel for merchandise. And Simon316 on social media. Thank you for listening to me as always. I don't know what I'm talking about, but we can pretend that I do. I'll see you soon.